Hello, crypto friends. It's been a while since we've checked in. I was patiently waiting to see if the bears would be lying in wait at resistance, and they certainly were. So we've seen this now. This is a common pattern. If you look on the shorter term time frames, this is Bitcoin on the hourly. And what we are noting is that as we see bull breaks heading up towards resistance, the bears are waiting there to push the price down, essentially. They're defending the weekly resistance to try and prevent from a weekly bull break. So just an example here, we had a clear downtrend, the bulls shift momentum. We get a bull break heading up towards resistance, instant bear attack, push the price down, break all nearby supports. And then it happened again and again and again. Here's another one. We broke resistance. We even broke that high. As soon as we break it, the bears are right there, knock the price all the way down. Bulls claw their way back slowly but surely. They break resistances. They break this key level. They're heading up to the next level. Bears dump the price down. And it's reminiscent of that day that is certainly fresh in our minds from when we were heading up to break weekly resistance. We rejected by about $50. The bears were waiting and crushed the price back down. So it's hard to be bullish in this space right now on Bitcoin. Individual altcoins certainly doing their own thing to a certain degree. But as far as Bitcoin is concerned, the fact that there is clearly bear bots sitting there waiting for the price to come up just to rocket it down, and the fact that you can take out all of the support levels that were established over multiple days in one fell swoop, again, makes it a very unattractive trading environment for bulls. Now, for bears, it's a different story because obviously they have some nice backup behind them in terms of playing defense for the bears. So as far as I'm concerned, Bitcoin is still in a daily uptrend. There's some other exchanges like Bitfinex where you could argue, and I'll just give an example. You could say, well, this was a little higher low here because we pulled back very briefly. We broke the low the previous day by $7 and then saw continuation and that broke. And I wouldn't argue too much against that, but it's insignificant to me. And if I look on other exchanges, that didn't happen. So for Bitcoin, we've seen a higher low on the daily time frame every single day for the last 6 days in a row. So for me on Bitcoin, anything above 37.79 is a higher low. And again, we can just go and compare at other exchanges as well and see where they stand. And the same thing for Binance. This is still a higher low pattern. So for me and my analysis, the daily chart is still an uptrend for Bitcoin. So we need to establish a daily higher low compared to 37.79. When we lose the daily uptrend, we zoom out to the weekly and we look for weekly consolidation. And the weekly chart has not consolidated since 33.37. That's our weekly higher low, and it's been a higher low every single week for the last 7 weeks in a row at this point. If we lose the daily uptrend, we then have a weekly lower high, and then we pull back and look for the potential of a higher low compared to 33.37 to stay in the tightening equilibrium pattern. So as far as right now, we have the dump. We're now playing the the exponential moving average zoom out game. Here's the hourly time frame. Exponential moving average resistances are approaching. We'll see how the price reacts when it gets to it. Then we have the 4-hour exponential resistance. We'll watch to see if the bear cross occurs on these exponential moving averages. Bottom line is, yes, we are still in a daily uptrend. Yes, we are still holding the daily exponential moving averages. But yes, there is a bear army sitting at key resistance levels, and they push the price down very quickly with market orders that trigger stop losses for bulls and get big, swift moves to the downside. So that's where we stand on Bitcoin. Ethereum started a little bit weaker than Bitcoin did. And this, in my opinion, is also we could call this a loss of the daily uptrend. Ethereum has been a lot weaker comparatively. We had the recent high all the way up to 147, and we pulled back and never even got close to it, whereas Bitcoin on the daily time frame had the recent high of 40.37, and we did end up breaking that level just barely before the bears jumped on it. But it's a completely different scenario. You can see just a fade on ETH as opposed to the bull move on BTC, shifting things clearly. And we are looking at the weekly time frame for Ethereum and cautious of a bear flag. So I haven't talked about long term in a while, but again, when you get a bull break with a higher low and a higher high with a lack of follow through, you zoom out and look for the potential of a flag. And it is a monthly bear flag on Ethereum right now. And it's going to be up to the bulls to prove that it's not a bear flag, because as of right now, it's a bear flag. So the bulls need significant follow through up towards the $200 area to try and negate that fact. So the bears have some momentum here. The most important supports for me are 127.19 and 122.75. And again, looking at the weekly time frame as things are tightening up a bit here, we got our low, high, higher low, Technically, it's a higher high. Pretty much consider that a double top. We did form another higher low here at 125.70. So 125.70 is the most important short-term support level. You can see we're still battling this 12-period exponential resistance, certainly giving the bulls a hard time over the last few months. And we are looking for clear weekly breaks and weekly momentum to shift momentum in the sector, and we don't have it at this point. Litecoin has been much stronger than other names. We've been consolidating the past couple of days looking for the daily higher low because the last one was 53.11. So anything above 53.11 keeps those higher lows intact. So we are still pretty healthy overall, still holding the daily exponential supports here as well. It's a daily inside bar right now. We didn't break that low of yesterday, but we're clearly in consolidation mode, and we're going to have to see a shift in the 4-hour trend to have confidence. So here's us holding that support. It's a potential bottom fishing play, but we're watching the hourly and the 4-hour exponential resistances here as well, and those are about to be tested in the next couple of hours or so. So the oversold hourly bounce is playing out, but as we know, those exponential resistances are the first test that we have to be looking for the bulls to make their way up to. So overall, daily time frame, extremely healthy on Litecoin. When we lose the daily uptrend, we zoom out to the weekly, and we can anticipate absolutely a weekly higher low is going to form compared to 42.40, as the bulls have a lot of space to work with, much more than the other two names we just looked at. XRP, still an absolute ugly chop fest on this daily time frame. Whether it's bullish or bearish, I guess the bears have at least 4-hour lower highs to be looking at, or I should say daily lower highs. 332, 329, 329 was a double top, and then a bear break. So we had the high, low, lower high, higher low, double top, bear break. So at least there was an equilibrium mixed in there that the bulls can, or I should say the bears can play off of, having clear levels for stops. So we have the double top at 3.9, or I should say 3.29. That's the most important short-term resistance level to be watching. Support is 2.95, and then we're looking down at 2.91 and 2.85. And again, just nowhere near enough of any kind of bullish clarity for me to be interested. I did make one trade attempt on XRP, the first one ever, on that bull break of the equilibrium, and I was stopped out. So we have this, again, look at the 12-period exponential resistance on the weekly. We're now working on about 8 to 10 different rejections over the last few months, clearly keeping the price contained. We have the low, high, double bottom, lower high, and then just sideways for the last month, which is all this daily chop. Bears have the short-term advantage with a clear 329 double top to be watching. BNB. So I actually have to go back and watch the last video that I did because it pointed out BNB weakness that the bulls want to be aware of, and I need to double check exactly what that weakness was. I know I mentioned the 12 and 26 period exponential moving average. They had not crossed at that point, but we were looking for the cross because the cross had not happened for the bears since the $11 or the $11 range. So now we have the bear cross and a clear shift in momentum. The daily time frame has lost the uptrend, so the higher lows have broken. The daily downtrend is only going to be confirmed if we get a lower high compared to $16 and then a lower low. So if the daily chart gives us a lower high and lower low, the downtrend is confirmed. But with the loss of the daily uptrend, we look for weekly consolidation. We could absolutely still form a weekly bull flag at this point. The bulls overall are fairly comfortable longer term. They don't have anything to worry about. It all depends on how much follow through the bears get and whether or not we see a bearish exponential cross on the daily, the 12 and 26 period. We saw it for the first time in a while on the 4-hour, and now we're going to be watching, is it going to occur on the daily as well? So after 5 red days in a row, we are going to anticipate with the 4-hour RSI bouncing off oversold that we're going to see at least a short-term bounce here. Again, the exponential moving averages, here we are testing the hourly, and we'll be watching for the 4-hour as well to be tested, but we are in consolidation mode. The question now is it going to be a bull flag, or is the pullback going to be significant enough that a bounce and a lower high would be the most likely scenario after that pullback? So we'll keep checking in on BNB. TRX still hasn't changed its daily trend. There's been a couple setups where it's gotten close, but we had an equilibrium with the low, high, higher low, lower high. Here we are right at support. Potential bottom fishing play of 217 for this support to hold, but if that support breaks, the bears are back in complete control. And right now, until we break the daily lower highs of 2355, the bulls don't prove anything at this point. So equilibrium in play, support being tested right now. Let's see if we got as oversold as other names. Not quite as oversold. Hourly, higher low attempting to form. A much different hourly bounce taking place. Most of the names that we looked at, the hourly charts are at the high of their bounce and looking at exponential resistance, whereas here we have an hourly equilibrium shaping up. So key resistance is 223, and we just held support down at 2212. So still in a daily equilibrium, that's what we're watching, and a potential bottom fishing play off of that daily support. ONT, nice continuation on this bull move. We just saw the daily higher lows and higher highs continue. Inside bar, bull break, inside bar, bull break, and now a bit of a volume climax and a bearish reversal candlestick on the daily, telling us that consolidation is likely. We lost the hourly uptrend, the 4-hour time frame, still technically in an hourly uptrend because of how extended we were, and we're going to be watching for, and it's a different setup because the hourly exponential moving average is our resistance, but the 4-hour is not. So technically still a 4-hour uptrend, which is the strongest short-term chart that we've looked at out of any of these names. 4-hour inside bar is currently forming, but definitely because of the daily candlestick and the potential volume climax and the fact that we just ran, over the last 10 trading days or so, 60%. All of those things tell us to be cautious and to be watching for the potential of daily consolidation. If we change this 4-hour trend with a lower high and lower low, we zoom out to the daily and we look for that daily higher low to form. EOS also in a daily equilibrium still. We have the low of 315, high of 4, higher low of 349, lower high of 393. And now we're going to see, can the bulls hold 348 and form a higher low? So this is another one where it's a potential bottom fishing play. The 4-hour RSI is right down at oversold. Same kind of bounces playing out as the majority of names. Exponential resistance on watch, but still in the daily equilibrium. And if the bulls can hold 348, we're going to look for a bounce and a lower high compared to 393. So equilibrium still in play for EOS and TRX, but they are at or approaching or at support. NEO has lost the daily uptrend. So this is the most clear loss of the daily uptrend that we've looked at, with the high, low of the pullback, which was still a daily higher low, then a very clear bounce attempt for continuation and a failure, and now a lower low. So that's a clear shift in momentum for NEO. 4-hour time frame, bounce trying to play out, hourly exponential resistance to watch, same as all these other names, but overall a clear shift in the daily momentum, which has me zoom out to the weekly and look for some clarity. And the most important support is 790 to keep that little weekly higher low intact. If we lose 790, that's a weekly inability to break resistance and then a lower low. So just like the daily time frame, it would change the trend if we do break 790. Certainly still above that level by a good bit at this point, but something we're keeping an eye out overall. So bears have some nice opportunity, at least in the dump, and bears are going to be watching to enter on hourly or 4-hour exponential moving average resistances. So just keep that in mind as we are looking at, the bounce attempts and whether you're playing bullish or bearish. And right now, bear entries have the higher probability, looking at lower highs being set on those 4-hour time frames. As far as the bulls go, have to patiently wait to see some kind of break of key resistance, specifically on Bitcoin. And it's the kind of thing where, back in 2017 and the first half of 2018, we used to see significant reactions to news, and news could be a catalyst to get significant volume to pour in and see a 10% day, out of nowhere. That hasn't been the case in the last few months. News has had very little reaction, both bullish and bearish, and that just tells me that retail traders aren't really interested in this space right now. So in order for any kind of, significant bull catalyst on Bitcoin, it's hard to think of what could cause that, at least in terms of a short-term move. Now, Bitcoin has been going up on the weekly time frame, like I said, for the last 7+ weeks or so. So it's a slow and steady kind of move. But in terms of that FOMO surge in bull action, I'm not really sure what it's going to take to get that. Perhaps, some kind of major announcement, but there's not really a whole lot of those that we're anticipating. So I think we're going to have to wait for things to play out a little bit longer. We might have to see further weekly consolidation. We might eventually head down to test these lows in the low 3,000s. So it all depends on the longer term trends, which the daily uptrend on Bitcoin is the most important thing that I'm watching currently. And I'm going to be keeping an eye on BNB. I'm not trading it, but I am very curious to see if this weekly is going to give us a bull flag. So I appreciate you all watching. I hope you do good things out there. Again, not a whole lot of activity in the crypto space for me personally. Still certainly keeping an eye on it, still keeping funds at the ready to quickly move and deploy capital if we do see opportunity. But other than that, stock market is raging bull. Dollar dumping on the Fed, news that pretty much the Fed said, hey, stock bulls, you got the green light all through 2019 with rates. So that caused the dollar to dump, that caused the tech sector and the market overall to surge. And we are going to be deploying capital and opportunity over there, at least I am, until crypto shows me something. So thanks again. We'll see you soon. Adventure Time, Chapter 11D7. We've got, where are we going? Curacanti National Recreation Area. And heading back, curling around from Telluride through Red Rocks back to Boulder, where I'm going to do the house sitting. So again, just more national public lands to check out. Hung out here all day and just swam and lounged around in the sun, and that was the day's task. As I hopped around, I got to the point where, I used to be able to drive from college to home. I would drive 14 hours, sometimes in a row, sometimes peeing while in cruise control. But I quickly burned myself out, and then I started to really only do 4 hours at a time. Anything more than 4 hours driving, and I get pretty miserable. And so I would just hop and find little spots along the way. I pick a spot on a map, I know where my destination is, and then I just zoom in and look for green areas on the map and national parks and national forests where I can stop in between, sometimes out of the way, but usually not too bad, and some nice hikes along the way. More Curacanti, again, just a big open giant lake where you can hang out, camp, do whatever, boat. It's ours, it's public. We pay for it. Take advantage of it. So string cheese at Red Rocks was a great time. First time at that venue, heading back there in 2 months to see my buddy playing Papadosio. That'll be fun. I'll take some more pictures and footage there. But just a really unique venue in terms of being surrounded by the rocks and obviously pretty iconic. And those are the rocks that are red. Baby chipmunk. So now getting back, and my task was to house sit for a month in Boulder and walk. This is Nina, and she is an Australian Shepherd. And man, if you have never seen Australian Shepherds, I'm sure there's a lot of work dogs that are up there in regards to it, but their drive is insane. And it's clear that they have been bred for thousands of years to just work, and that's all they want to do. And I have no doubt that, you could probably run this dog to death if you just threw a ball for 20 hours in a row. All she wanted to do was chase the ball. That's it. And she would do it for hours and hours on end. So it was nice to have a home base and be able to trade a little bit. I did some trading, be able to make food on a stove. That was nice. And just take care of the garden. She had a big old wall of peas and a bunch of raised beds that had been pretty developed. There's the backyard, a nice rainbow, great views. Pretty awesome backyard. There he is. So harvesting some cucumbers and beans and potatoes that were all grown in these little raised beds. You can see my matching pants. It's a funny story about those pants. I think I've already told it, but I'll save that for another time. Yeah, matching outfit. I don't know if you can tell, but I've been wearing the same outfit for 3 days in a row now. Whoever invented that you need to change clothes every day is a fool. I don't buy it. Some cool, they had what are these? Hot air balloons. They had a hot air balloon festival, so that was cool in the distance. I guess that's, I don't know what that is. If that looks too big to be a dove, maybe not. Anyways, raised beds, nice and established. That's all you need. The amount of food that you can grow in this right here is pretty remarkable. And you can definitely feed a family on that. So get some raised beds and grow some food. So I didn't do a whole lot aside from, explore Boulder, do some hikes in the area, check out the restaurants, and trade and take care of the dog, and then moved onwards, westwards to Utah, which had some great spots, and we'll head there next. See you then.